So Americans are taking on even more credit card debt amid inflation. A recent report says that Americans are taking longer to pay their credit card bills. Credit card spending rose 9%, guys, at JP Morgan Chase, 15% at Wells Fargo in Q3. And wait till we get the Q4 numbers out here in a couple of weeks. But experts are saying to avoid spending beyond means to prevent financial strain. I think this goes without saying, right? I mean, there's just some basic information, but you would be surprised how many people don't have basic personal finance skills and understanding, and how most Americans are using credit card debt not to get ahead financially, but to put themselves further and further behind. American consumers are continuing to spend with many options, many opting to pay with credit cards as they grapple with inflation and maintaining lifestyles. This is exactly what I've been talking about for I feel like since the beginning of time, right? A lot of Americans, I don't even want to say most. I feel like a lot of Americans are literally just trying to keep up with the Joneses. Somebody gets a new car, you got to get a new car. That's really what keeping up with the Joneses is. When your neighbor gets a new car or a new whatever that you can't necessarily afford, but you feel compelled to keep up with them. Or even if you can afford to buy a new car, if you feel compelled to keep up with someone else, that's keeping up with the Joneses. And this is a massive problem here in America, and it's preventing a lot of the middle class from actually building wealth. And you know how we were saying how the middle class is getting smaller and smaller. At some point in time, the middle class is going to go away completely. Well, the reason why the middle class, or part of the reasons why the middle class is going away, is because people are leaving the middle class. But the question is, where are they going, right? So if the middle class is in the middle, and above middle class is upper middle class, and then the upper class, right, or the rich or the wealthy, well, what's below middle class? Well, it's lower middle class, and then it's poor, right? So you can either move up or you can move down. Well, if you're, falling into the camp of Americans who are literally being swayed to buy things you can't afford, keeping up with the Joneses, well, you're sliding down the socioeconomic scale into the poor. And of course, if you're smarter and have more emotional intellect or emotional intelligence, because that's kind of what it boils down to. So a lot of people don't have control over their emotions, and it's making them poorer. Get this, nationally, credit card spending rose in the third quarter at major banks, including 9% at JP Morgan Chase, which JP Morgan Chase is the nation's largest bank. A lot of people thought it was Bank of America, but no, Bank of America is actually smaller than JP Morgan Chase. And the credit card spending rose 15% at Wells Fargo. The outlet reports credit card loans or unpaid balances on accounts jumped nearly 16% in the third quarter at JP Morgan compared to just a year ago. Guys, we're literally, this is at a time where people are literally searching give back car at an alarming rate, right? And people are literally searching how to give their cars back. Most people use their car to get to work, right? So you got to ask yourself, why are so many people trying to turn their vehicles in, right? A lot of people buy cars on car payments of 60 months, 72 months, 84 months. Guys, I literally saw the other day that some people are literally getting financing for their cars, these auto loans of 96 months. And to make matters worse, the longer you finance the car, the higher the interest rate because the bank is taking on a greater risk. But what is making matters even worse is that people are financing these cars they clearly can't afford for terms of 96 months. And I think I even saw 108 months. Anyway, people are financing these cars they clearly can't afford over longer periods of time. So what's going to happen? Number one, it's a greater chance that they're going to be underwater on these cars. It's a greater chance that these banks are going to have to take these cars back because people are going to default on the loans. They're not going to be able to make the car payment on time. They're going to be late. Late fees will be assessed. And on top of that, people are financing these cars and they're getting underwater even faster because they're buying cars that are way overpriced, well over market value. Granted, we had some shortages in the automobile industry for a while, especially post-pandemic. But guess what, guys? It's starting to come home to roost. And a lot of these people, you're going to see a lot of tow trucks hitting the roads. And you guys let me know if you're seeing any tow trucks in your area picking up cars. By the way, if you guys haven't already, hit the like button for the video if you appreciate the content, and consider subscribing to the channel. I would love to have you guys a part of the community. So it says here, you can do a voluntary repossession, which means you voluntarily surrender your car to the lender. This can help you to minimize the balance you'll have to pay, but you'll still have to pay any deficiency balance. And so this is what happens when you're underwater. Let's just say you owe 30 grand on your car loan, but your car is only worth like $20,000. And this is happening more often than you would imagine. So that would mean that even if you gave your car back to the bank or back to the dealership, first of all, most banks or dealerships, they don't want the car back. They want their money. In fact, they want you to just make the payments, because technically if you pay the loan off early, the bank is making less money. So they just want you to make your payments on time. They don't want you to be late, and they really don't want you to pay early either. They just want you to pay on time. So if they end up taking that car back and the car is upside down, and let's just say you owe $10,000, well, where do you think that they're going to, number one, even if you gave the car back, the dealership or the bank is still like, well, where's the rest of my money? Okay, sure, we got your car, but where's the rest of our money? So what are they going to do? Maybe borrow $10,000 from a very good friend. Hopefully your friend has got some financial backing. But a lot of people are going to buy now, or they're going to these like payday lenders, or they're borrowing against their credit cards using cash advances. Really not a good idea, right? Well, a lot of Americans are literally just kind of like financially strangling themselves by making these bad calls. And I came across this. This is an interesting thing. It was talking about how why wealthy Americans are actually saying that it's actually getting harder for them to get richer, right? And, so basically, even though America's wealthiest people aren't necessarily feeling too rich these days, some are actually saying that it's getting harder and harder to grow their net worth. And some of you guys might even laugh at this, but if you happen to be a millionaire, I want to see what you have to say on this one, right? But there was a survey that came out, and it was talking about how many millionaires were surveyed, and a significant, more than half of them were actually saying that even though they had, $1 or $2 million, they didn't even feel rich. Actually, only 13% of those surveyed millionaires actually said that they felt rich. All other millionaires felt like they were either barely getting by or just didn't classify themselves as feeling rich, which is just, it's crazy to think, because this shows how much inflation has impacted people, right? It used to be like 20 years ago, if you had $1 million, like you were socially perceived as being rich. Today, $1 million in some parts of the United States won't even get you a house to live in. So let alone being like financially independent, sitting on $1 million net worth. So a new survey from insurance company Chubb asked 800 wealthy North Americans, all of whom have investable assets, at least $500,000, who they view their wealth and, this survey asked 800 wealthy North Americans, all of whom have investable assets of at least $500,000. So they're not millionaires. They're like half a $1 million heirs or above, right? And they asked them, how do they view their wealth and what keeps them up at night? What makes someone who has at least $500,000 worry at night, right? So the survey conducted in September and October found that over 2/3, that's 66%, of respondents don't actually consider themselves wealthy, which goes into what I was saying before about the millionaires who don't feel like they're wealthy. In fact, some of them feel like they're kind of like, penny pinching, including some with more than $10 million in investable assets who don't consider themselves wealthy. Now, I want to ask you guys, what do you think is wealthy? Like, granted, money is not everything, but if you were to put a dollar amount aside beside the title wealthy, what is the minimum amount of money that it would take for you to consider someone wealthy? Is it $5 million? Is it $1 million? Is it $10 million? Like, what is it for you? So anyway, about 2 out of every 3 people who responded noted that building wealth is a lot harder than ever. Reasons for this include worries about inflation, a volatile stock market, fear of job loss, and the climate crisis causing damage to or hurting the values of homes. Now, a lot of people have mixed opinions on climate change. Is climate change real? Is it like a political play? That's neither here nor there. But what is interesting is that they claim the stock market, volatile stock market, is something that keeps them up at night. Well, right now, the stock market is actually hitting all-time highs. If you look at the Dow Jones right now today, the Dow hit 37,000 points, and so we're in all-time high territory. So, but they didn't necessarily. Basically, they're saying that the stock market is volatile, and that keeps people up at night. Fear of job loss. I think a lot of people who are not yet financially free would definitely worry about job loss. And so I just think it's very, very interesting to see this dynamic of our market like reveal itself. America's wealthy aren't feeling wealthy. Many wealthy Americans with millions of dollars saved up still are worried about their financial futures. Despite faring much better than most Americans, a majority of wealthy Americans surveyed are nervous about the economic uncertainty and their investments becoming less valuable. Wow. So, this is the state of our economy right now, guys. And here's the other thing. Just a quick note. This new IRS tax bracket is supposed to take effect starting 2024, which means that your paycheck could potentially be even bigger next year, which will be a very welcome sign for a lot of Americans. So higher income tax brackets and standard deductions would actually take effect at the beginning of January. So basically like next week, potentially giving Americans a chance to increase their take-home pay in 2024 and ultimately be able to shield more of their income from the IRS. And this is one thing that the wealthy have truly figured out. Most Americans, in the middle class, they focus on cutting coupons, saving money here and there, buy one, get one, getting these little reward cards and whatnot. But one of the greatest wealth transfer circumstances that most Americans find themselves in is literally the IRS. And the wealthy have figured out how to legally pay the IRS as little as possible. And the average American doesn't even look at it from a strategic perspective, and they end up paying, in many cases, more than they would have to if they actually had like a tax strategist or a tax advisor that could literally, because most people, in the next couple of weeks will receive a W-2 and will start filing their tax returns so that they can get hopefully a refund from the federal government. Well, the wealthy generally ends up having to write a check to the government because they're smart enough not to give the federal government a 0% interest loan throughout the year, in the form of overpaying taxes throughout the year from earned income. So anyway, I'm not going to go into too much detail on that in this video, but if you guys would like to learn more about tax strategies, how to minimize your taxes, maybe how to start a business, or even opening an LLC and building business credit, starting a home-based business, maybe even hiring your kids, definitely hit me up in the comment section down below. And perhaps I'll make a video talking more about how to get started doing those things. But these are just some of the strategies that the wealthy employ. Also, if you'd like to learn more about how to get your YouTube channel started or starting a YouTube business, I've literally provided some free information for you guys in the description down below this video. If you guys want to check it out, there is a link for you guys. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the content today. And I want to ask you, what are you doing to protect your family financially? And what are you doing to get ahead? I'd love to hear from you guys in the comment section down below. I wish you guys the best, and I'll catch you on the next one.